Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today, we're going to get rolling with a discussion on happiness, and that is taken from a medium's perspective. And then I'll be sharing a tale that's quite touching about happiness on the other side. And at the end of our show, I will be sharing sort of an affirmation meditation that will help you increase your happiness and also increase your gifts. So welcome. We're happy that you're here today. Buddhism teaches us that we're each responsible for our own happiness or unhappiness. And I wanted to share a story with you today. It's taken from Zen Shorts, a children's book by John J. Muth. This chapter is called The Farmer's Luck, and I thought this tied in really well with today. There was once an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day, his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. "Oh, such bad luck," they said sympathetically. "Maybe," the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. "Ah, such good luck!" the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," replied the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses and was thrown off and broke a leg. Again, the neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. "Oh, such bad luck," they said. "Maybe," answered the farmer. The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight in the war. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. "Such good luck!" cried the neighbors. "Maybe," said the farmer. I thought that story was a great illustration of the fact that it isn't circumstances that create our happiness. And today I did want to talk from my perspective as a medium on happiness. What is our purpose of being here in this world? What's the big deal about being happy? Happy, happy, happy. So what? If you're able to, would you please close your eyes for just a minute and listen to an excerpt that I'd like to read you from Christian D. Larson's book, Your Forces and How to Use Them. It's entitled Promise Yourself. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. To talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. To make all your friends feel that there is something special in them. To look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. To think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. To be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. To forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future. To wear a cheerful countenance at all times, and give every living creature you meet a smile. To give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. To be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. To think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but great deeds. To live in faith that the whole world is on your side, so long as you are true to the best that is in you. You can open your eyes now. I just liked that and wanted to share it with you. So again, the question, what is our purpose of being here? And what do those that are really spiritual say about that? Well, I was in Goodwill a while back browsing the videos section, and there was The Secrets of the Tibetan Monks. And I was so excited. Maybe now I would learn something about the true and magnificent truths that were extremely important in life. And I paid $1 for it and drove home. And as soon as I could put the tape in my VCR and watched with great fascination the feats of mental endurance and physical challenge that they were able to accomplish, it was amazing. They could sit without moving for like hours. And they could walk on coals of fire and stand in freezing water, and steam would just roll off of them. Some of them would go into the mountains and live alone in caves and eat like 1 leaf a day. Amazing, I tell you. And at the end of the movie, a guy that was dressed in orange, who wasn't the Dalai Lama, but was someone with a lot, and I do mean a lot, of spiritual wisdom, sat in front of the camera. And I knew that he was like super spiritual. And as he gazed zen-like and so calm at the camera, he asked a question. What is our purpose of being here? And I got really excited. I mean, if I'd been in the room with him, I would probably have jumped out of my seat, waving my hand and screaming, I know, I know, I know. And then when he serenely turned to acknowledge my enthusiasm, I would blurt out, it's service. It's service. We're here to be of service. But I would have been wrong, because according to the Tibetan monks, the purpose of our being here is happiness. Well, you could have bought me for a penny. Happiness? Really? But that got me to thinking that to be happy might require a bit of study and some learning of the art of happiness. Now, Albert Camus, the great philosopher, said, "You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of." And the glamorous actress Audrey Hepburn might have talked to the very same monk that I saw on that video, because she said the most important thing is to enjoy your life, to be happy. It's all that matters. And Abraham Lincoln said, people are just about as happy as they make up their minds to be. But if happiness is so important, how do we get it? And what is it anyway? Charles M. Schulz, the creator of the Peanuts cartoon, said, happiness is a warm puppy. And for many of us, that could make us happy, unless we're allergic to dogs, of course. I was in the Roanoke Health Food Co-op the other day, and I was reading the refrigerator magnets, and I found one that really caught my attention, and it says, life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. And isn't that true? We really have a belief sometimes that it's the circumstances in our life that make us happy. But we know, don't we, that happiness is not in what you have, or where you live, or who you're with, right? Happiness is more than a feeling. It's a knowing, a security, a trust in yourself. A trust in the choices that you make by what feels right. It's all in the little choices. For instance, say you're in the grocery store choosing a pasta sauce. Do you choose the one that's organic and tastes great, or do you pick the store brand that you have to doctor just to try to make it edible because it's 43 cents cheaper? No! Pick the organic one, the one that makes your taste buds dance. Now, I am not advocating wild spending, but seriously, choose the one that makes you happier. There's another example that I often give in my psychic readings to clients. And let's say that you've set yourself up for a perfectly miserable day. You have agreed to take Wilhelmina, the energy vampire, out for a day of shopping. And every time you do this for her, you come back totally exhausted and have nearly given up the will to live. Well, that same day, About an hour before you're scheduled to pick up Wilhelmina, Betty calls and she says, Bob died, and we were wondering if you wouldn't mind making us a couple of those little green bean casseroles for the funeral. You know, the ones with the little crunchy onions on top. You just make them so well, and we really appreciate you. And as you listen to Betty's request, you think to yourself that if I make one more of those blessed green bean casseroles, I will slit my wrists. So what do? It is time to take a stand. So you tell Betty, Betty, I appreciate your calling me, but I'm just not able to do that for you today. Clicka. And you know, it won't make a difference anyway, because Betty is pretty skilled at getting people to help her. And Bob's dead anyway, and he didn't even like green bean casserole. If they don't have the casseroles, the funeral will go right on without them, and Bob will rest in peace regardless. Well, you're on a roll now, so you call up Wilhelmina, and you say, Wilhelmina, I know I said I'd take you around to the stores today, but something's come up and I won't be able to. No, I'm really not able to talk right now. Thank you. Clicka. And so what do you do with all that free time? Anything you want. And you see, every time you choose the pasta sauce that you like, or decline something that steals your energy, in the etheric realm, you're choosing the happy. And every time you choose the happy, you get a happy rock from the pool of self-healing. You get to reach down in the crystal clear waters and choose any stone that you wish. And then one by one, you can start building a pyramid out of your happy rocks. And as you build your pyramid of happy rocks, you begin to weave together and build upon these happy choices. And then one day, the universe looks down and says, hey, look at that person making a pile of happy rocks. They must like happiness. Let's give them a boulder of happiness. No, wait. Let's give them a meteor. No, a planet. No, wait. Let's give them a galaxy of happiness. We create our world, and happiness is in the little choices that you make for yourself every day. Happiness is vastly underrated. Groucho Marx said, each morning when I open my eyes, I say to myself, I, not events, have the power to make me happy or unhappy today. I can choose which it shall be. Yesterday is dead. Tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I have just one day, today, and I'm going to be happy in it. Happiness is underrated, and it's all in the details and the nuances of the little choices that we make. And these little choices accumulate and gain momentum. And it's up to us as to whether or not they add up to making us a little bit happier or the reverse. Make a covenant with yourself, a promise to do no harm to you by the choices that you make for yourself. Practice the art of happiness. Find your happiness now by making yourself that promise, the promise to honor what feels right to you and to choose the things that feel best to you. And if that seems like there is no choice that feels best, then create a new one. Go on, get you some happy rocks. Go on and get some today. Well, I hoped you enjoyed that happiness perspective from a medium's perspective. I'd like to share just a few minutes of affirmations that will lead you to a happy state of mind. And in the second half of the show, we'll be doing some other things that I'll mention in a little bit. So just relax and maybe say these in your heart along with me. I am the architect of my life. I build its foundation and choose its contents. Today, I am brimming with energy and overflowing with joy. My body is healthy. My mind is brilliant. My soul is tranquil. I have been given endless talents, which I begin to utilize today. I forgive those who have harmed me in my past and peacefully detach from them. A river of compassion washes away my anger and replaces it with love. I am guided in my every step by Spirit, who leads me towards what I must know and what I must do. My relationships are becoming stronger, deeper, more stable each day, and I possess the qualities needed to be extremely successful. My business is growing, expanding, and thriving. Creative energy surges through me and leads me to new and brilliant ideas. I base my happiness on my own accomplishments and the blessings that I have been given. My ability to conquer my challenges is limitless. My potential to succeed is infinite. I deserve to be employed and paid well for my time, efforts, and ideas. I am courageous and I stand up for myself. My thoughts are filled with positivity, and my life is plentiful with prosperity. Today, I abandon my old habits and take up new, more positive ones. Many people look up to me and recognize my worth. I am admired. I am blessed with an incredible family and wonderful friends. I acknowledge my own self-worth. My confidence is soaring. Everything that is happening now is happening for my ultimate good. I am a powerhouse. Though these times are difficult, they are only a short phase of life. My future is an ideal projection of what I envision now. My efforts are being supported by the universe. My dreams manifest into reality before my eyes. The perfect partner is coming into my life sooner than I expect. I radiate beauty, charm, and grace. I am conquering my illness. I am defeating it steadily each day. My obstacles are moving out of my way. My path is carved toward greatness. I wake up today with strength in my heart and clarity in my mind. My fears of tomorrow are simply melting away. I am at peace with all that has happened, is happening, and will happen. My nature is divine. I am a spiritual being. My life is just beginning. And so why would a medium talk about happiness? And why would it be important for us to change our thoughts? That's because when we are here in the physical world, our thought can become things. Therefore, the way that we direct our thoughts creates, in an essence, our world around us. And it sets energy into motion. Energy follows focus. When we are in the other dimension, out of body, our thoughts are instantly manifested. But here in this world, we're in a denser state, as if we've precipitated down. If you want to imagine it in a three-dimensional state, it's like there's the source of all that is, and we're parts of that. Maybe you can imagine it as perfect light and perfect love and perfect sound. And we, like little sparks, kind of break off and we start precipitating down through the dimensions, coming ever, ever denser until we're able to push our will forward into the physical world. And while we're down here, we're dealing with a sense of separateness, a separateness from each other, a separateness from our awareness of our connection to Source. And that's the challenge that we face in this life, is how do we overcome that? How do we connect? How do we connect within ourselves to create that sense of peace that we seek while we're here, instead of looking across the border into another dimension that we aren't in right now. Doesn't mean that we won't go back. It just means that right now we've chosen to be here. And we've chosen to be here for a variety of things. And we're looking for that connection inside ourselves to that ultimate calm. And the reason that we do that is that when we find that place, sometimes it's referred to as mokshe, Mokshe. And that's that state of detachment and appreciation for all that is. When we're connected with ourselves, then we can become more connected with other people. As we become more connected with other people, the Buddhists have a saying that when we can see ourselves reflected in the eyes of another human being, that we have attained enlightenment. And once we start seeing the world from that perspective, it's very easy to connect to things that are outside of us and beyond, or to the universes that are within us too. We are all connected, but we each retain our own individuality. And as a medium, it's really important for me to be centered and to be in touch with that inner calm and that state of being where your ego and your intellect are set aside, to where you can connect and hear clearly what you get when you achieve a connection with the other side. That connection is really a natural state. I believe that it's natural to all people, that awareness that there is something more. We talked last time about how if somebody in spirit comes up to you, it's kind of like you can sense them, sort of like a physical person coming into the room. As a medium, one of my goals is to make sure that I not only bring through the messages that that person needs to hear, but that in that process of working with that individual, that they are able to raise their own vibration and walk out of my office or hang up the phone in a state of deeper understanding, of connection to themselves, of objective view of what's going on in their life, and feeling more in control of themselves, feeling more happy. Happiness, according to the Tibetan monks, is our highest calling. We hear a lot in our culture about service being of importance, and service is wonderful and a great thing to do, but it has to come from our largesse. It has to be given from our ability, not from a state of inner poverty. It has to come from us when we're in that full state, so that we do have extra to give. Until we have that sense of fullness within ourselves, it's really important to keep our energies focused on our needs, not in a selfish way, but in a way that's very honest about what it is that we do and do not want, our sense of happiness. Well, I'd like to share our tale from the other side. A lot of times people get kind of nervous when they hear, ooh, we're going to talk about ghosts, or ooh, we're going to talk about spirits. They get nervous because they associate that with a lot of the sensationalism and phenomenon that are talked about in the general media. And that's one of the reasons that I decided to do this show, is to give perspective of life from a medium's perspective. It's not that there aren't lower vibrational entities, or that we couldn't have had experiences or haven't had experiences with lower vibrationals, as I like to refer to them, because of course they exist. There's so many positive stories about things that occur. When I do a reading, it's almost a sacred honor for me to connect with the souls that have crossed over. I don't think of it as a sensationalized thing, and I actually prefer private readings to public readings, although I have appeared in public, because I feel like the sacred nature of that communication should be honored. All of us are different, and each person that crosses over in the state of mind that they were in at the time of passing. So their experience when they come to the other side is different for each one. There are a lot of times that someone will ask me, are they happy? People want to know, are they happy? It's not always an instant transformation to that state. We all have the capacity to rise in our vibration and to change our state of mind and therefore our perspective and our dimension or our level, however you would like to think of those things on the other side. But not everybody is happy when they cross over. Sometimes they're suffering the grief of losing their life over here. Maybe they had things that weren't done, or they also feel like they've lost their connection to the people in the physical world, maybe because they can't hear or sense them as easily as they could when they were present, or maybe just a sense of grief, just like we do feeling those that have crossed over. And another thing is that they actually often are worried about our happiness. Here, we're always like, well, I hope they're okay and made the journey safely and found some peace. But then they're looking back across the divide at us and they're saying, I hope that you choose to be happy. I hope that you don't let my passing keep you from moving forward in your life, from making changes in your life, for giving yourself permission to be happy. And they worry about our happiness sometimes. Not everyone, but many do. The story that I wanted to share occurred in a public venue when I was giving public messages. And someone's son came through and he had passed from an overdose. And there was speculation, had it been intentional or not. It's a very hard thing to find a child who has passed under those conditions. And the mother's grief had really disabled her. It's been about a year, maybe 2 years since I first met her. Her son's passing was just really crippling to her. It brought on a lot of neurosis and it brought on a lot of fears. And it triggered all the insecurities that she ever harbored within. It just shook her life from the top to the bottom. And her grief is very profound, although she is moving through it. I do see progress over that time. But during this service, her son came through. She began to cry when she sensed his presence. And he just said, "Mom, hey, I want to tell you something." He was really proud because he had actually learned a new skill. He just wanted to share it with her like he would if he had done something good at school or athletically or something. He was really proud because he had learned to bilocate. And by that, I mean be able to be in more than one place at one time. Because now that he's out of body, he doesn't have the restriction of being confined to a single body. Not that we're really confined either, because in the dream state and trance state and meditation state, we can certainly leave our bodies and have an awareness outside of ourselves. He hadn't learned that skill because when he had first crossed over, he was quite a bit in shock himself and dealing with some of the reasons that brought up the question as to whether it had been suicide or accidental overdose. And he had also been very bound to the earth in the sense that he wanted to communicate with his mother. He wanted to connect with her and reassure her that he was there, that he could communicate with her, and that if she would relax, that she could feel him around her. But as her grief began to abate, he began to heal also. And then he began to sort of explore a little bit about what he could do in that new state of being. Sort of like when you move to a new town, your first efforts are on getting everything situated in the home and finding out where to buy gas and where the best place to buy groceries at a reasonable price is and where the doctors and the hospitals are and all those things, the schools and things that occupy your base needs as moving. But it's a little later that you get to explore some of the fun things. That's the state that he was in at that time. He had learned this skill and he was so proud. He said, "Watch me." He wanted to show his mom that he could be with her and yet still be experiencing and exploring things on the other side. And he wanted to reassure her that he would keep close to her in this life as she remains here and still be able to move on, that he was happy, that he was learning to become happy, and he really wanted her to be too. that just brings up the question, are you happy? Are you happy right now? Because you can be. It's more of a process. It's a decision to honor the things that are important to you, to stand up for what feels best for you, and to release things that aren't working for you any longer, to let go of relationships that have served their purpose but are no longer beneficial for you to keep. It seems like one by one, those little choices are what begins our sense of control, because many times things in life have happened to us that were beyond our control. The number of people that were physically abused in childhood or in a relationship that come to my office or speak to me by phone or Skype is staggering. When that type of thing happens, we really feel like we don't have a choice. And often, even as a young adult, when we get out into the world, we think, oh, yes, we're going to really make a change and I'm going to take control of life. And what happens is that we somehow pick the same pieces of the chessboard and try to win at the game this time. But often we don't succeed because we haven't realized that it isn't a game of chess. It's actually backgammon or something else, and that when we play with the same pieces, the same outcome occurs. So I really want to encourage you to not wait to be happy, to give yourself the opening, to realize, like the caged lions of yore that were in circuses, traveling with circuses and in zoos, before they used to put animals in very small cages, and those cages were so small that it just left room to just barely pace back and forth. And lions or tigers would be pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to the degree that when the door was opened to receive their dinner, they wouldn't stop pacing because they had no conscious awareness that the door was actually open. And I want to tell you that the door is open. There are many things that happen in our life that make us feel powerless, but the door is actually open. And once you step through that door, once you realize the door is open, and I don't mean to the other world, I'm talking about this world and your happiness here. Once you open the door to the possibility that by your choices, you can make your life a little better, a whole universe of happiness becomes available to you, and your connections with yourself, others, and those on the other side will surely improve. And now, to top off the show, I'd like to share an exercise that you can do to help build your intuitive skills. So let's get our psychic knuckles cracking. I'm actually often asked about mediumship and the state of mind there, and I have a quote here that really resonated with me. It was by Professor C.G. Jung, J-U-N-G. I'm often asked, what is the state of mind in which one is most able to function as a sensitive? I believe that the beginnings of this state lie in the development of an inner calm, which is free from distraction or desire. The slightest effort to consciously produce evidence will inhibit this condition. In mediumship, the goal is not only to be at one with oneself, but with all else in the universe. And having heard that about the connection between us and all other things, it is extraordinarily important for a medium to have a quiet at the core of their soul, because that's when we hear best, when we're out of the way. Today's exercise is a reading from the 12 pathways to higher consciousness planes of unconditional love and oneness. It's in a handbook by Ken Keyes Jr. And if you'll just listen along and sense these things. The first section is entitled Freeing Myself. I am freeing myself from security, sensation, and power addictions that make me try to forcefully control situations in my life and thus destroy my serenity and keep me from loving myself and others. I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. I welcome the opportunity, even if painful, that my minute-to-minute experience offers me to become aware of the addictions I must reprogram to be liberated from my robot-like emotional patterns. And in this case, this isn't talking about physical addictions. This is talking about our thought processes and our mental addictions to control that we have by trying to control other people. The second section is called Being Here Now. I always remember that I have everything I need to enjoy my here and now, unless I'm letting my consciousness be dominated by demands and expectations based on the dead past or the imagined future. I take full responsibility here and now for everything that I experience, for it is my own programming that creates my actions and also influences the reactions of people around me. I accept myself completely here and now and consciously experience everything that I feel, think, say, and do, including my emotionally hacked addictions, as a necessary part of my growth into higher consciousness. I'd like to comment on that section that it isn't that we have total control. Obviously, in the physical world, we experience things at the hands of others that are a violation of our will. But this is about taking control of what we can take control of through our thoughts and our choices. The third section is called Interacting with Others. I open myself genuinely to all people by being willing to fully communicate my deepest feelings, since hiding in any degree keeps me stuck in my illusion of separateness from other people. Isn't that interesting? I feel with loving compassion the problems of others without getting caught up emotionally in their predicaments that are offering them messages that they need for their growth. I act freely when I'm tuned in, centered and loving, but if possible, I avoid acting when I am emotionally upset and depriving myself of the wisdom that flows from love and expanded consciousness. The fourth section is called Discovering My Conscious Awareness. I am continually calming the restless scanning of my rational mind in order to perceive the finer energies that enable me to intuitively merge with everything around me. I am constantly aware of which of the 7 centers of consciousness I am using. Those would be our chakras. And I feel my energy, perceptiveness, love, and inner peace growing as I open all of the centers of consciousness. I am perceiving everyone, including myself, as an awakened being who is here to claim his or her birthright to the higher consciousness planes of unconditional love and oneness. Well, that is it for this week. That's our psychic development exercise, because meditation will help and affirmations can help bring you to a right state of mind to connect. We have enjoyed the show and hope that you have as well. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about chakras and how to balance them. And I'll share another tale from the other side and offer some other interesting things to help build your psychic abilities. Thank you for joining us. If you would have an interest in contacting me, my website is mediumtracylockwood.com, or friend me on Facebook at Psychic Medium Tracey Lockwood. You can also reach me directly by phone in the U.S. by texting me on my cell at 540-998-9789. And if you are interested in listening to past episodes of From a Medium's Perspective, please look for them on YouTube. And they're also on my website at mediumtracylockwood.com. We look forward to seeing you next week for a view of life from a medium's perspective. And remember, it is never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing.